6 months ago I discovered that my husband Dylan was cheating on me. The day before we had just celebrated our son/'s birthday together. I could still picture the way Dylan handed him a Lego set, our son's face lighting up with anticipation, and Dylan's own expression filled with warmth and fatherly wisdom. "You're a year older now. It's time to be a responsible man," he had said. That moment felt so perfect that I even posted pictures on social media, commemorating the day as one of those beautiful snapshots of family life. At my age, having a loving husband, a wonderful child, and a thriving business, what more could I ask for? And yet, the very next evening, under the pretense of meeting a client, Dylan checked into a luxury hot spring resort with a 25-year-old woman. This year marks our 10th wedding anniversary. In our second year of marriage, we had a child, and I opened my own children/s ballet training center. Business and family flourished side by side. I had been so proud back then. Who said having kids would ruin a woman's career? Look at me, I had it all. After weathering the first 3 tough years of entrepreneurship, I started making over $1 million annually. I had basked in that pride for so long, felt content for so long. And now, that same pride had come back to slap me in the face. That night, after receiving his birthday gift, our son eagerly unwrapped the Lego set. But one piece wouldn't fit no matter how hard he tried, so he and Dylan huddled together trying to figure it out. It was such a heartwarming sight. Feeling lighthearted, I grabbed Dylan's phone, intending to search for the model's assembly instructions on Google. That's when a message popped up on his screen. "I bought new lingerie, the kind you like. You'd better be gentle with me tomorrow night." I froze. Then another message appeared. "You can't tear it apart like last time, okay?" My hands went cold. Before I could process what I was doing, I tapped open the conversation. Another notification flashed, a photo. For a moment, I hesitated, not wanting to see what I already knew would shatter me. But I couldn't stop myself. I clicked on it. A young woman, dressed in a white, high-cut, one-piece swimsuit, was taking a mirror selfie. Her face was hidden behind her phone, but her arms pressed tightly against her chest, accentuating the curves that the fabric barely covered. Below that, her slender waist and taut, untouched stomach, one that had never carried a child, seemed to sneer at me, as if yanking at my ear and taunting, "Look at her. Look at how young she is." I quietly exited the chat, put the phone back where I found it, and said nothing. Time has a way of shaping people. It may bring wrinkles and gray hairs, but it also teaches resilience. Like now, I was surprisingly calm. Not because I needed to convince myself to be, it had simply become second nature. Downstairs, Dylan and our son were still tinkering with the Lego set. I walked up to the second-floor bathroom, sank into the steaming bathtub, and peeled open a face mask, smoothing it over my skin. I needed space to think. Divorce? Dylan was a 45-year-old, balding, middle-aged man who reeked of grease and entitlement. Standing next to me, he already looked like a sugar daddy, as if I were some young mistress he was keeping. If not for the wealth we had built together over the years, what leverage would he even have to attract a woman half his age? If I divorced him now, wouldn't I just be handing over half of everything I worked for? But was staying married really my only choice? Why should I be the only one disgusted? Why should I sit back and watch Dylan use half of our marital assets to bankroll his mistress? No matter how I looked at it, I was the one getting screwed over. By the time I finished my bath and skincare routine, Dylan was already fast asleep, lying on his side with his back to me. His phone was no longer on the nightstand. I could guess it was tucked under his pillow. He slept soundly that night, even snoring. Once, that sound would have made me feel sorry for how exhausted he was. But now, it was like the relentless buzzing of 1,000 flies, filling me with nothing but irritation. I put on my noise-canceling earbuds, selected Claire de Lune, and curled up on the armchair beside the bed. Then, I unlocked my phone and scrolled through my WhatsApp contacts until I found a name I had added months ago. Lily Swan. Yes. Her. The girl in the white swimsuit. I knew her. I opened our chat history, trying to remember when I had first added her. Her first message read, "Hello, Mrs. Wilson. I'm Lily Swan, the candidate who just interviewed for the assistant dance instructor position." My response had been curt. Oh. That was the first and only conversation we'd ever had. For months ago, she had come in for an interview. She was beautiful. She danced well. She was skilled. But she didn't get the job. Because before the interview I had run into her in the restroom. She had been waiting in line for too long and was visibly impatient. When a mother and her child finally emerged from a stall, she muttered under her breath, "Why bring a kid out anyway? Just gets in everyone's way. So damn slow." She hadn't noticed me standing behind her. I had said nothing, but I had made up my mind about her right then and there. 8 years ago at this exact time, I had been in a hospital room writhing in labor pains, bringing my son into the world. Tonight, that same little boy was fast asleep in his room, wrapped around his beloved new toy, lost in a dream of childhood wonder. And I was lying here, drowning in the sound of Dylan's thunderous snoring, scrolling through social media in the dark, searching for his mistress account. A few minutes later, I found her Instagram. Fate was a funny thing. Lily made no effort to hide their affair. Every sweet moment was laid bare for the world to see, everything except the man/'s identity. Through her Instagram posts, I learned that their relationship had begun 3 months ago. That night they had steak. Dry-aged steak. The only kind I ever order. 90 days of controlled aging with 40 of the meat sacrificed just to refine the flavor, leaving only the most exquisite portion. Expensive but worth every bite. I had worked hard enough to earn such indulgences without guilt. But Lily? At 25 she got to enjoy it effortlessly. They also had Guillerdo oysters and champagne. I could picture their dinner, luxurious, romantic. And, of course, half of that bill was my money. Then there was the Porsche 718. Soft-top convertible. White body, Bordeaux red roof, the kind of color combination that women swooned over. In her photos, Lily posed in front of the car, one long leg elegantly propped against the hood. A stunning image. That car. Half of it was mine too. Lily came from an ordinary family. I had gathered as much during her interview. But on social media, she had curated a persona of wealth and luxury, a perfect rich girl illusion. The realization made me chuckle bitterly in the middle of the night. So I was, in a way, one of the sponsors behind her luxury girl fantasy? How amusing. But could I still turn the tables? I thought about it. Yes, I could. Morning came. I laid out Dylan's clothes, his favorite outfit. A purple polo shirt, navy trousers, and a pair of flashy designer sneakers plastered with logos. Dylan thought this ensemble made him look younger. He even liked to pop the collar of his polo, convinced it gave him an air of casual sophistication. To any woman with a shred of taste, it screamed middle-aged sleaze. I had spent years subtly steering him away from it, never outright telling him how ridiculous he looked. But today he deserved to be happy. He adjusted his shirt, slid on his most expensive watch, and admired himself in the mirror. "I have a late meeting tonight," he said, still fussing with his reflection. "Might run late, probably won't be home." It was Saturday. 5 p.m. on a weekend and he had a business meeting? What kind of idiot did he take me for? I kept my expression perfectly neutral. "All right. If you can make it home, do try." "Of course. I'd love to see you as soon as I can." He said it smoothly, like a well-rehearsed line. And I smiled back just as effortlessly. "See you later, darling." Dylan, the fool, beamed, grabbed the keys to his most expensive car and drove off. What kind of idiot risks everything for a girl he lured in with nothing but designer shoes and overpriced dinners? Was she really worth it? I checked the morning news on my phone, then dropped our son off at his tennis lesson. After that, I drove across town, from the north side to the east, to meet an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. In adulthood, social connections were a game of mutual benefit. Your skills for my resources. Your network for my capital. So even though Sarah and I hadn't spoken in years, I knew she would help me if I asked. I walked into her office, passing rows of dressing rooms and makeup stations. Around me, models milled about, tall, striking women and handsome, sun-kissed young men. Fresh talent. Male models. And they were exactly what I was here for. But after scanning through a whole lineup of handsome men, not a single one caught my eye. Sure, they had good looks, flawless skin, sharp features, toned bodies, but beneath it all, their eyes were filled with something too raw, too desperate. A hunger that was just a little too obvious. "Darling, your standards have really gone up," Sarah teased, shaking her head. "How about this? Let's grab a meal first. You've probably looked at too many options and just need a break. Well, come back later and try again." I chuckled, nodding. "All right." As we stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed. A message from Dylan. I hit the close button while playing his voice note, his sickly sweet tone dripping through my earbuds. Don't wait up for me. I won't be home tonight. I rolled my eyes so hard they nearly got stuck. The second his voice cut off, a sharp, confident voice called out, "Hold the door." I pressed the button. A man stepped inside. Dressed impeccably. A body sculpted to perfection, exuding raw masculinity, yet contradictorily his bright, puppy-like eyes and easy smile softened him. That kind of contrast was dangerous. The kind that made people want to dig deeper to uncover the layers beneath. Then he spoke, his voice smooth yet polite. "Good evening." So he was a model too. When the elevator arrived, he pressed a hand against the door, stepping to the side to let us out first. A gentleman, clearly practiced but effortlessly so. This was it. "Why didn't you introduce me to someone like him?" I asked Sarah, amused. Her response came swift and firm. "Him? Absolutely not." Her tone had dropped significantly. "You said you needed a model for your ballet center's promotional shoot. But you turned down all those fresh dance academy grads. I can guess what you /re actually up to." She leaned in, whispering gravely in my ear, "If that's what you're after, then Dennis is the worst choice. He has an STD. I blinked. Then I laughed. For a whole minute. So, I had been mistaken for a sugar mama scouting for a gigolo? The universe must favor those who hustle. That morning I had been agonizing over my next move. By noon, an opportunity had landed in my lap. Dennis, 27. Worked in a bar after college, then transitioned into modeling. And apparently he knew exactly how to handle women. Once I had his number, I arranged a meeting for 3 days later. When the day came, he showed up on time. I gave him a once-over. His entire outfit, shirt, jeans, sneakers, probably cost less than $200 combined. First I took him shopping. We bought a whole new wardrobe where a single white t-shirt cost at least $2,000. Then I had his hair styled into something sleek, refined, and fitting for his new persona. Dennis didn't object to any of it. In fact, he seemed excited as he carried the bags, though he had no idea what exactly he was signing up for. Next, I took him to an apartment I had prearranged through an agent, a 2,000 square foot luxury condo, just a 5-minute walk from Times Square. Rent, $23,000 a month. From the moment we entered the gated complex, Dennis looked utterly bewildered. Inside the apartment, the agent went over the amenities and rental terms while I remained silent. When they finished, I finally turned to Dennis. "Do you like it?" He looked at me stunned. It took him a moment before he nodded. "Yes." "Good," I said, turning to the agent. "Give us a moment alone." The agent, perceptive as ever, stepped out, closing the door behind them. I took out a folder, walked up to Dennis and placed it in his hands. "I need you to do something for me. Pretend to be a trust fund baby. And use these files to win over this woman. This apartment is for you and it'll cover all expenses you need. And when you succeed, it'll give you a $200,000 extra bonus." Dennis stared at me, utterly baffled. He had not seen this coming. I pulled out Lily's photo and held it up in front of the stunned Dennis. "I suggest you take a good look at her first." His gaze shifted to the picture, and for a split second, I caught the flicker of anticipation in his eyes. Of course. Beauty was a weapon. If Lily could use it, so could I. Dennis hesitated for a long moment, probably worried I'd see through his thoughts, but eventually he nodded in agreement. I opened the door and called the agent back in. "I'll take the apartment, but only for 3 months. The agent hesitated. Reluctant. "That is, until I added, I'll throw in an extra $10,000 as a service fee." Suddenly there were no more objections. I turned back to Dennis. 3 months. That's your deadline. Got it. With that single word, our deal was officially sealed. The next day I took Dennis to rent a Gallardo, a car that fit the image of a trust fund kid but was in a completely different league from the Porsche 718. The moment he held the keys in his hands, his eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. As soon as the paperwork was done, he couldn't resist taking me for a spin. We stopped under a shaded street and Dennis pulled out his phone, clearly itching to take a photo. But with me sitting right there, he hesitated, knowing better than to outright pose for selfies. "No flaunting. Nothing on social media," I said. Dennis sheepishly put his phone away. "Got it. Sorry." Then we drove straight to our real destination, a high-end gym right below Lily's studio. The place was sleek, modern, and expensive. Even the exterior walls were full-length glass panels. giving me a perfect view from the cafe across the street. By 6 o'clock Lily would be here. She was a calculating woman. Dylan wasn't her only target. This gym was one of her usual hunting grounds. Sure enough, she arrived, dressed in skin-tight activewear that left little to the imagination. Her cheeks were flushed, lips red from exertion, an image of sweet innocence, if not for the deadly curves accentuated by her leggings. The way the fabric hugged her hips made every man walking past the treadmill slow down, their gazes lingering. She hadn't been running long before a young guy on the treadmill beside her started up a conversation, pretending to exercise. Lily glanced at him once. A quick assessment: his outfit was average and he looked too young to have money. She shot him a cold, dismissive glance before giving a polite, practiced smile. "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." Moments later Dennis entered. Instead of taking the treadmill right beside her, he chose the one next to it, maintaining just enough distance. Lily glanced at him. Then again. This time, her expression shifted. She liked what she saw. But Dennis? For the next 30 minutes he simply ran, lost in his music, not sparing her a single glance. And that, of course, was what reeled her in. Men weren't the only ones who craved the thrill of the chase. After her run, Lily walked over to the water station, right as Dennis did the same. I expected a simple hi. Instead she accidentally spilled a full cup of ice water all over him. Classic move. A master's move. And just like that, the two of them headed down to the underground parking garage together. Earlier, I had made sure Dennis parked his Gallardo right next to Lily's Porsche 718. So when they walked up to their cars side by side, Lily's heart must have skipped a beat. Barely 2 hours later, Dennis had her contact info. Not only that, she had asked him for it first. During the first week of Dennis and Lily's friendship, Dylan's sneaky behavior remained as frequent as ever, showing no signs of slowing down. By the second week, Lily took the initiative and invited Dennis to an amusement park. I nearly laughed when I heard the news, so they were actually going on proper dates now? At the park, things took a turn. It was crowded, and at some point Lily's Chanel bag got scratched. Dennis, ever the perfect gentleman, seized the opportunity. He dragged her straight to the Chanel boutique, using it as an excuse to make it up to her. He bought her a brand new designer bag worth over 10 grand. Lily's joy was palpable. That night, Dennis played the role of a true gentleman, escorting Lily home but intentionally stopping at the entrance instead of going upstairs. Why? Because a certain someone had been lurking around Lily's building, waiting for her. Robert Brown. A 34-year-old procurement manager from Lily's company. Broke but a professional at pretending otherwise. He had once gone all out to pursue Lily, throwing money at expensive gifts to win her over. And for a while it worked. But once Lily realized that despite the luxury presents, Robert couldn't even afford a down payment on a house, she ruthlessly dumped him. Robert, however, was not the type to take rejection well. For the past few days he had been lurking near her place, waiting for a chance to confront her. Tonight, his patience paid off. The moment Lily returned, he stepped forward and blocked her way. He wasn't here for love, he was here for money. Demanding she return the 3 designer bags he had gifted her, plus a total of $30,000 in bank transfers. He grabbed Lily's wrist, threatening to call the police if she didn't pay him back. Lily's neighborhood was in a bustling area, and even at 11 p.m. there were still plenty of people around. So she wasn't afraid. On the contrary, she was arrogant. Do you even know what a gift is? Once you give it, it's mine. Stop being such a pathetic loser and move on. Or should I report you for harassment? Her words hit their mark. Robert snapped, his anger flaring. He grabbed her arm and tried to drag her toward a quieter alley. That's when Dennis, who had been watching from the shadows, sprang into action. He rushed over, yanking Robert away from Lily. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice dripping with concern. The moment Lily saw Dennis, her entire demeanor shifted, her acting skills skyrocketed. She transformed into the perfect victim, a helpless, innocent girl, terrified of her aggressive ex. Dennis made quick work of Robert, forcing him to retreat. And as soon as the threat was gone, Lily turned to Dennis with teary eyes. "Why did you come back?" she whispered, her voice trembling just enough to sound genuine. Dennis, ever the charmer, delivered his line flawlessly. "Because I wanted to make sure you got home safely." No matter how seasoned Lily was, no matter how much experience she had playing the game, That single sentence got to her. Her defenses wavered. Her walls began to crumble. Dennis continued comforting her, subtly planting the idea that her apartment was no longer safe. He suggested she stay at his place for a few nights. Lily of course loved the idea. But she put on a show, pretending to hesitate, acting as if she reluctantly agreed. Then she followed Dennis to his luxurious, high-end apartment. At 2 a.m. Dennis texted me with an update. Mission accomplished. Dennis didn't disappoint me. From their first meeting to completely securing Lily's heart. He took just 1 month. Throughout this entire charade he played his role to perfection. Despite his good looks and the countless temptations surrounding him, he remained devoted, or at least convincingly so, to Lily alone. Armed with a handsome face and my financial backing, he showered Lily with luxury, designer bags, jewelry, high-end skincare, everything a materialistic woman could dream of. Lily was completely smitten, never once suspecting that many of the later gifts were high-quality counterfeits. Even more amusing, she had been so eager to win Dennis' affection that she had, on occasion, bought him gifts as well. Still, Lily was far from naive. Even though she had solidified her relationship with Dennis, she never let go of Dylan. She played both roles seamlessly, the devoted girlfriend to Dennis, the scheming mistress to Dylan, effortlessly switching between them without slipping up. I had to admit I almost respected her game. Almost. At a quiet, unassuming cafe, Dennis and I were plotting our next move when his phone rang. It was Lily. Dennis didn't bother keeping it private, he put it on speaker. Darling, her syrupy voice cooed. You won't believe how awful my boss is. He's always trying to make my life difficult. Her rant went on for several minutes, complaining about how terrible work was. She mentioned 3 times how much she hated her job. The message was obvious. Dennis raised an eyebrow and glanced at me. She wants me to take care of her, huh? Should I agree? She's very high maintenance. By now, Dennis understood the whole situation. He knew exactly who I was. And he knew that Lily had wrecked my marriage. I smirked, amused. What's this? Are you worried about me? Heartbroken over my money? Dennis chuckled. A little, yeah. Your husband's burning through your money and now so is she. I couldn't help but laugh. He wasn't wrong. Leaning back, I let my gaze drift to his phone. Since she doesn't want to work anymore, let's grant her wish. That weekend, Dylan had a gala to attend in San Francisco. And of course Lily would be there too. On the night of the event, she clung to Dylan's arm, all smiles, acting like a doting lover. Since they were in another city, they didn't even bother hiding their relationship. I watched them from across the room, sipping my drink. My expression completely calm. Dennis stood beside me, studying my face. Are you okay? He asked, a hint of concern in his voice. I merely smiled. Let's go. Later that night, inside their hotel, the next phase of the plan unfolded. Right on cue, Dennis appeared in the lobby holding a bouquet of roses. He sent Lily a message. Baby, I'm downstairs at your hotel. What's your room number? Lily had told him earlier that she would be on a business trip for the weekend. To maintain her cover, she had even given Dennis the hotel's location herself. She just hadn't expected him to actually show up. Fresh out of the shower, wrapped in only a towel, Lily saw the message and panicked. She clutched her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed Dennis. Darling, why are you here? She whispered urgently. Dennis, unfazed, responded smoothly. I realized I can't be without you. It's only been a day and I already miss you. Lily's face went pale. Under any other circumstances, she would have swooned at those words. But now, that same sweet talk filled her with sheer dread. I had no idea what excuse she made to Dylan, but within minutes she was scrambling to get dressed and rushing downstairs to handle Dennis. In the hotel lobby, Dennis and Lily put on a show, locking lips in a heated, passionate kiss, as if unable to contain their desire for each other. Yet beneath the surface both had their own agendas. Dennis played the part of the eager boyfriend, trying to coax Lily into letting him up to her room. But Lily, ever the strategist, placed a hand on his chest and gave him a coy smile. I'm sharing a suite with a colleague, she said sweetly. We still have some work to finish, probably 2 or 3 more hours. Why don't you book another room? We'll come find you later, okay? Dennis, of course, agreed without hesitation. Like a dutiful, lovesick boyfriend, he obediently checked into a different room and waited. This was better than Mission Impossible. Even Tom Cruise couldn't pull off a scheme like Lily's. She had left Dylan's room just 18 minutes ago, not enough time for them to have done anything serious. But now that she was returning, she'd have to make it up to the old man. Dennis watched as Lily turned to leave, then followed her at a distance. He saw her enter room 8514. 20 minutes later, the doorbell to room 8514 rang. A hotel employee stood outside holding a bouquet of roses sent by Dennis. Dennis stood beside him, his face full of excitement as if he were about to surprise his beloved girlfriend. Then a furious male voice boomed from inside. "Who the hell is it?" The staff hesitated, glancing at Dennis, unsure of what to do. Finally, he defaulted to his professional script. "Good evening, sir. I'm with hotel services. I didn't order anything." "Go away," Dylan snapped. The employee, caught in an awkward position, turned to Dennis for guidance. Dennis' expression had darkened right on cue. He pressed the doorbell again, his anger intensifying. Moments later, a visibly irritated Dylan yanked the door open. "Lily, did you order room service?" he barked. And then he saw Dennis. For the first time, the two men came face to face. Dennis clenched his jaw, his expression shifting from betrayal to fury in seconds. Without hesitation, he hurled the bouquet at Lily and Dylan, his face twisted with rage. Then, before either of them could react, he threw a punch. Dylan, completely blindsided, barely got a chance to defend himself before Dennis sent him sprawling onto the floor. Lily's face had gone ghostly pale. Dennis turned his fury on her next. He didn't wait for an explanation. He just stormed off. In true disaster mode, Lily did what she did best: damage control. She bolted downstairs, still in nothing but her bathrobe, completely disregarding the spectacle she was making. He didn't have time to care. She needed to fix this. And there, standing just outside the hotel, Dennis was waiting, leaning against a pillar, cigarette in hand, looking every bit like a man whose heart had just been shattered into pieces. It was a perfectly staged scene. When Lily reached him, she didn't panic. She didn't break down. Instead, she spun the story. "Dennis, please, it's not what you think," she pleaded, her voice trembling just enough to sound real. She painted herself as the innocent victim, a girl from humble beginnings who had simply been led astray by her circumstances. She wasn't cheating, she insisted. She was merely repaying a favor to an older man who had helped her career. "I don't love him, Dennis. He's the one who won't let go," she whispered, pressing against him like a helpless little rabbit seeking comfort. "You have to believe me. He tricked me into coming here. If you hadn't shown up, I don't know what would have happened to me." Dennis, still deep in character, let out a heavy sigh. Then he threw out his next line, one designed to back her into a corner. "If that's true," he said quietly, "call him. Right now. Tell him you have a boyfriend and that he needs to get lost." Lily stiffened. She hesitated. Then, in one final desperate attempt, she said, "But he's an important client. If I offend him, I'll lose my job." Dennis, ever the perfect mark, took the bait. "Then quit," he said, looking deep into her eyes. "We'll take care of you." Lily's face lit up. She pretended to hesitate, but the idea of Dennis supporting her financially was too tempting to pass up. To prove her loyalty, she reluctantly pulled out her phone and called Dylan, her voice turning ice cold. "Dylan, I have a boyfriend. Stop calling me. I don't want to see you again." I could only imagine Dylan's reaction on the other end. Knowing him, he was probably livid. Probably throwing the hotel TV onto the floor in rage. Because when Dylan got angry, he always destroyed the TV first. After returning from San Francisco, Lily quit her job. To make her new lifestyle feel as real as possible, I had Dennis hand her a $20,000 allowance on the very first day she moved in. To sweeten the deal, he made sure to promise her if she behaved well, there would be more money in the future. Lily's eyes lit up with pure ecstasy when she saw the check. She didn't hesitate, she immediately dragged Dennis out for a shopping spree. Once they were gone, I entered the apartment with my spare key. Everything I had prepared beforehand was still in place. Good. Even though the plan had been executed flawlessly so far, I couldn't shake a nagging feeling of unease. Dennis was too good at this. At times, I found myself questioning whether he was playing a role or if this was who he truly was. Could he turn on me? Would he switch sides if it benefited him more? I wasn't naive. His effortless charm and seamless manipulation made it clear he was born for this game. And as for Lily, I had to admit she had skills. She was cunning. He was ruthless. and she had survived by knowing exactly how to play men. My opponent was formidable. And that meant I needed to be twice as prepared to ensure my plan remained airtight. When Dylan returned from San Francisco, he was a mess. He barely spoke. He constantly checked his phone, scrolling with a deep frown, looking more miserable by the day. I didn't need to ask, I already knew why. And honestly, I felt nothing but disgust. A grown man in his 40s, genuinely believing he had found true love with a 20-something mistress? It was pathetic. He had taken Lily on a romantic getaway, only to find out that she had a boyfriend. And not just that, he got his ass kicked by said boyfriend. There was no way he could let that humiliation go. So Dylan did what any scorned, desperate man would do. He confronted Lily, only to discover that she had already blocked his number and deleted all contact. That was the final straw. Dylan snapped. And like the petty, vengeful fool he was, he called the police. He reported his car, the Porsche 718, as stolen. Because, despite everything, the car was still legally under his name. For once he wasn't completely stupid. Lily was summoned to the police station. Dennis, of course, found an excuse to go with her. When Dennis called me, I could hear Lily's furious voice echoing in the background, dripping with venom. That car was a gift, you asshole. I didn't steal anything. You had no problem giving it to me when you were crawling into my bed. Now you want it back. Look at you. I'm 20 years younger than you. You were lucky I even looked at you. And now you're trying to ruin me. Her voice was sharp, filled with rage and mockery. I didn't hear the rest. But I knew she wouldn't have had anything nice to say. I hung up the phone. And suddenly, for the first time in this whole ordeal, I felt empty. This was supposed to be my victory. Lily was out of Dylan's life. He had no way back in. But watching the man I had once called my husband, someone I had built a life with, being torn apart by the very woman he had chosen over me, there was no satisfaction. Only the bitter tragedy of it all. But the pieces were already in motion. Even if I wanted to call stop, it was too late. And Dylan. This wasn't his lowest point yet. Not even close. That night, I stayed out late before finally heading home. When I walked in, Dylan was slumped on the couch, drowning himself in alcohol. I stood there for a moment, watching him with cold detachment. Then I took a seat directly across from him. Dylan, we need to talk. His glassy, drunken eyes lifted to meet mine. Confusion flickering in them, probably wondering what exactly I wanted to talk about. I didn't waste time. I tossed a stack of photographs onto the coffee table. Admit it. You cheated. Dylan's panic was instant. His eyes darted between me and the photos, scrambling for an excuse. No, sweetheart, listen to me. His face drained of color. His lips moved, but no words came out. His eyes, filled with guilt, flickered toward mine. Dylan, we've been together for 10 years. I let my voice tremble, let the tears well up. My breath hitched, breaking into soft sobs. The last time Dylan had seen me cry was in the hospital delivery room. And just as I expected, he completely unraveled. He dropped to his knees, wrapping his arms around my legs, his voice choked with regret. I'm sorry. Baby, I was out of my mind. Please forgive me. I swear I will never make this mistake again. His voice was real. His remorse was real. He even slapped himself hard over and over as if punishing himself would make me believe him. I didn't respond. I just kept crying. This was something I had learned from Lily. That night, Dylan begged for my forgiveness. I knew he meant it. But I also knew that if I forgave him, he would do it again. As I knew him. Lying in the bathtub later that night, I picked up my phone and sent Dennis one final message. It's time for the last step. When Lily's call finally came, I wasn't surprised. I was at the aquarium with Dylan and our son watching the dolphins. Despite everything, Dylan and I had always been good parents. Even after discovering his affair, I had never let our son feel the weight of it. Since the night of our confrontation, Dylan had changed. No matter how busy work got, he made time for us. He even noticed small details like the fact that I had recently switched to a new body lotion. Baby, did you change your skincare? This smells nice. Before, Dylan wouldn't have noticed if I had grown a third arm. But now, too late. When his phone rang, I saw a flicker of panic in his eyes. But instead of answering, he declined the call and turned back to our son, pointing at the massive fish tank above us. Look, buddy. That's a manta ray. Lily's desperation was expected. Last week I had sent Dennis his final instruction. Disappear. I canceled his apartment lease. I deactivated his phone. I wired him 200,000 and sent him off to Bali to enjoy an extended vacation. Lily had been completely cut off. And once she realized all the luxury goods Dennis had gifted her were fake, the truth hit her: she had been scammed. But Lily was resilient. For every man lost, there were thousands more. As long as she was beautiful, she would always have options. And Dylan? Dylan was her next target. Only this time, Dylan wasn't answering her calls. That night back home, Dylan was in the shower when Lily started texting. Relentlessly. Message after message popped up on his phone. When Dylan stepped out of the bathroom, his expression was calm. Without hesitation, he picked up his phone and handed it to me. I took it, glancing down at the screen. Lily had pulled her final card. She claimed she was pregnant. With his baby. I looked up at Dylan, saying nothing. Just waiting for his next move. Dylan hesitated for a moment, then standing right in front of me, he called Lily back. His voice was colder than ever. You and I both know whose baby that really is. But if you insist it's mine, I'll pay for the abortion. After that, we are done. Forever. Without another word, he blocked her on everything. But just a few days later, as he sat in the living room playing with our son, a new message popped up on his phone. If you don't come see me today, I'll expose all your dirty secrets. Let's go down together. A few seconds later, another one followed. Tomorrow night. 9 p.m. Swan Lake. If you don't show up, I'll jump. The number was unlisted. But I knew exactly who it was: Lily. To prove he had nothing to hide, Dylan took me with him. Lily was waiting in a dark, secluded area of the lake, where the streetlights barely reached. I stayed in the car, watching from a distance. She was hysterical. Her voice rang out, shrill and angry. I won't let any of you get away with this. Then she followed Dylan's gaze and finally noticed me sitting in the passenger seat. Her face twisted in pure rage. She stormed over to my window, spewing every vile insult she could think of. Screaming at me like a madwoman. A mistress cursing out the wife. The audacity. It was almost funny. Maybe she really was just that stupid. But I wasn't angry. Because Lily looked awful. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was a mess. Her face was flushed with resentment, humiliation, and frustration. That alone was enough for me. I silently thanked myself for staying calm when I first discovered Dylan's affair. Because if I had lost control back then, I would have ended up just like her. When Dylan and I drove away, he wouldn't stop apologizing. He had watched me get verbally ripped apart by Lily and was drowning in guilt. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was such an idiot. His apologies filled the car like nauseating background noise. I cut him off with a single emotionless response. It's over. Forget it. And for once, Dylan shut up. When Dylan refused to budge, Lily turned her attention to me. She left me a voice message. The second I picked up, her accusations flew at me like daggers. Are you happy now? Watching me lose everything? I laughed. Did you not expect this outcome when you became a mistress and tore apart a marriage? But there was no remorse in her voice. Instead, she scoffed, her tone laced with contempt. So what? As long as I got what I wanted, who cares? Then she dropped her final threat. Listen carefully. I still have proof of Dylan's affair. If you don't want to risk your precious company going down, send me $1 million. Once the money's in my account, it'll disappear forever. I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. Especially because, no matter how calm she tried to sound, I could hear the tremor in her voice. Sweetheart, I said, my voice dripping with mockery. Who exactly are you planning to expose? My colleagues? Our clients? Our families? Do you honestly think Dylan is the only man in the world who cheats? What kind of scandal do you think you can create? We're not some Fortune 500 company. All it takes is a decent PR team and your little exposé becomes nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Then I went in for the kill. Besides, I've already done my homework on you. So tell me, who do you think will suffer more? Dylan, if your proof gets out. Or you? When I release videos of you sleeping with Dylan and Dennis, I never told her that Dennis was my pawn. I simply let her believe that I had been watching all along. Because only a fool pokes at a snake, not knowing how deep its venom runs. Lily fell completely silent. I could hear her sharp inhale over the phone, the sound of someone who had just realized they had lost everything. For several seconds she struggled to find words, stammering, like she had been choked by an invisible hand. The satisfaction that rushed through me was immense. All the planning, the patience, the quiet maneuvering, this moment made it all worth it. In the end, she wasn't even a worthy opponent. And as her soft, broken sobs filled the silence, I decided to deliver my final blow. Oh, one more thing, your ex, Dennis, he has an STD. You should probably get yourself checked. Then, without waiting for her reaction, I hung up. And I blocked her on everything. That night when I got home, Dylan was waiting for me. He had cooked an entire dinner, setting up the table like it was some grand reconciliation. I sat down and simply stared at him. Dylan fidgeted under my gaze. "Sweetheart. What's wrong?" he asked, trying to sound casual. I leaned back, my voice calm. "Lily called me today. She screamed at me for a while." Dylan's face darkened. "What? That's not important." I sighed. "What is important is that she told me she has an STD." I altered the truth, feeding Dylan his own poison, a story that would shake him to his core. Dylan's entire body froze. His face went blank. I watched him closely, absorbing every flicker of fear, every twitch of realization. Lily had been sleeping with both Dennis and Dylan. Dylan had never been the cautious type, never one to take safety seriously. So now the question haunted him: had he just screwed himself over? His panic swelled. Then, in a blind rage, he flipped the entire dinner table over. Plates shattered. Wine spilled. Silverware clattered across the floor. "That bitch. That filthy whore." He kept cursing at Lily, at Dennis, maybe even at himself. I said nothing. I simply stood up, walked upstairs, and left him to drown in his own destruction. "Dylan, you cheated. And in the end you played yourself." 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Dennis, back from Bali. "How have you been? I miss you." I ignored it. Minutes later he called. I didn't answer. I didn't care what he had to say. So I pulled out the SIM card, walked over to the hazardous waste bin, and tossed it in without a second thought. That same day, Dylan came home clutching a medical report. He stood in the middle of the living room, looking like a hollowed-out shell of a man. His hands were shaking as he spread the papers out in front of me. "It's clean. I'm fine. It was all a lie." His voice wavered, filled with a fragile kind of relief. He was lucky. I glanced at the report, then back at him, my expression unreadable. "That's good," I said simply. Dylan stood there, expecting more. Maybe he wanted comfort. Maybe he wanted forgiveness. But I just flipped through my magazine like nothing had happened. His voice softened. "Sweetheart, let's start over." He reached for my hand. I pulled away. Calmly I replied, "Dylan, I've already scheduled an appointment with the lawyer. We'll sign the divorce papers on Monday." Dylan stiffened. His pupils dilated, his face drained of color. "Why, I thought you forgave me." He stammered, panicked. I finally looked up at him. This man who had once been my partner, my lover, my husband. I felt nothing. "I did forgive you," I said, smiling faintly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to stay." Dylan's lips quivered. His throat bobbed as he swallowed, struggling for words. But there was nothing left to say. For the first time, he understood. He had lost everything. His wife. His marriage. His self-righteous arrogance. And he had no one to blame but himself. The divorce proceedings went smoothly. I walked away with half the company's shares, the house, and full custody of our son. Dylan. He left with nothing but his meager savings. He had tried to fight back, tried to resist. But in front of my lawyer, his struggle was meaningless. I had prepared everything. Every document. Every shred of evidence, meticulously collected and perfectly timed. Each move I made was precise. Each strike was fatal. On the day of our divorce, Dylan sat in the law office, silent and lifeless. His face was ashen, his posture slumped in defeat. "Do you really not feel anything?" he finally murmured. I met his gaze and let my lips curl into the faintest smile. "The moment you cheated, Dylan, I had already divorced you. You're just realizing it now." Then, without another word, I stood up and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't hesitate. I stepped out of the office. Into the sunlight. The sky was clear, blue, endless. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was completely free. And that's my story. If you've made it this far, thank you. I hope my journey inspires you even just a little. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are still many more in spring stories like mine for women like us. He'll be back tomorrow with another one. See you then.